Good evening, everyone. I am calling the August 17th, 2020 meeting of the Columbus Board of Education to order. Please call the roll, Mr. Treasurer.
President Adair,
Present.
Ms. Beckerly,
Present.
Mr. Brown,
I'm here.
Mr. Cole,
Here.
Dr. Pierce, Mr. Ragland,
Here.
Vice President Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, board members. You have the agenda in front of you. We do have public comment on an agenda item this evening. We have a report from the superintendent. No report is expected from the internal auditor. We have a report from the treasurer. We have no items in board matters. We have notices for public hearing on reemployment. We have our consent agenda, and then we will go into a public comment on a non-agenda item, and then have executive session and recess, and adjournment, I'm sorry. Are there any additions or questions about the agenda? Hearing none, without objection, the agenda is adopted. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into public comment. We have Lois Carson here to speak to the board. Topic, personnel, action, respect our work. President Carson, you have 4 minutes to address the board.
Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Reyes, board members, and administration. I have been a secretary in Columbus City Schools for 34 years. Most of the members I represent have worked in this district for several years. We live in Columbus, we pay taxes here, we are very invested in the school district. We want the best that we can see in Columbus City Schools. I am not alone with that wish. As president of Columbus School Employees Association, I represent thousands of classified employees who are deeply committed to providing the best they can to Columbus City Schools. Our work is so important to this mission of quality education that the Ohio Department of Education recently launched I Educate Ohio. I, Lois Carson, educate Ohio children. The program recognizes the critical contribution every single school board employee makes to the education of our children. The Ohio Department of Education clearly agrees with CSEA members that the work we do is important and should be respected. Part of the respect involves communication. We need information to be key players on the team. Yet we still do not have much information about opening schools next week. What we do have, we read it on the website or get that information from a board meeting. We do not know if there's a backup plan if the school district decides to close down due to the COVID numbers increasing. Guess what? The kids are coming back next week. We need information. We clearly need a better line of communication between administration and the classified staff who keeps our schools running. We are here for our students and families, but we cannot be the best if we're not included at the table. I'm asking the administration to do better and to give us information we need. Please stop the lack of communication. We get most of our information, once again, from the website or from board minutes. We do what we do because we love Columbus City Schools. We are proud and we want to see Columbus City Schools thrive. We are educators in Columbus City Schools. Though we may not be all on the academic side, we do make a difference in what we do. Please respect our work.
Thank you so much, President Carson, for those comments. All right, board members, we're going to go ahead and move into item 4, the superintendent executive report. Madam Superintendent.
Good evening. Since this is the last board meeting of our traditional summer break, if I could take just a moment to share that Columbus City Schools is all in for the start of the 2021-22 school year. Students, families, teachers, staff, administrators, our partners, and community stakeholders will be seeing this message that we are all in. A week from this Thursday, August 26th to be exact, we will start the new school year with students all in the classrooms, moving away from the blended and remote learning that defined much of last school year. Our blend ed students will be all in their digital classrooms as well. As you know, health and safety protocols are all in place in our buildings and on our school buses to keep students and staff healthy and mitigate the spread of the new strands of COVID-19. And we want students to be all in every day because attendance is so important. Missing even just a couple of days of school during the first month can set a student behind. We're dedicated to giving students every opportunity for a successful start. That's why our teachers, principals, administrators, and staff are all in to help students adjust to their new classrooms, accelerate their learning, stay safe at school, feed their bodies and minds, and support their growth at home. And this year, we're boosting our family engagement support so parents and our community partners can be all in to help our students succeed and families stay connected. That's a good reminder that we will kick off our first virtual family engagement super session of the school year tomorrow night, Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. I will be joined by members of our academics team, transportation, and school operation leads, several of our school principals, and our health partners from Nationwide Children's Hospital. We will share important information that families should know before the first day of school. And we will have live language interpreters on the Zoom session, so all families can be all in on the conversation. As everyone here tonight knows, we are part of the largest district in Ohio. This is a district where every student can find the resources and support they need and deserve to be anything they want because it's all in CCS. At our last board meeting, we had the opportunity to introduce many of the new principals we have leading our schools this year. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome more new principals that are joining us via Zoom. I will turn it over to our area superintendents to introduce each of the new leaders in their region. First, Region 1 and Area Superintendent Scott Nelson. Mr. Nelson?
To the Columbus City Schools Board of Education. I am excited to introduce to you and have the opportunity to introduce you to, there she is, Margaret Allen, as the new principal at Westmount Elementary School. Mrs. Allen is coming directly from our leadership internship program and has strong ties and experiences to the West Side and Westmount Elementary School. Welcome to Region 1, Mrs. Allen.
Oh, there she is.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome Lavonda Kreitzberg as the interim principal at Alpine Elementary School. Lavonda has a wealth of experience and is a retired administrator from CCS.
Good evening. I am Luther Johnson, Area Superintendent for Region 6. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the new administrative additions rather, to Region 6. There are several. First, we have Carmen Turner. Ms. Turner is joining us as the new pre-K to 5 principal at Columbus Afrocentric Early College. Ms. Turner serves as the assistant principal at Colerain and excited about this new opportunity at Columbus Afrocentric. Next, we have Mrs. Margaret Barrios Brown. Mrs. Brown is eager to get started as the new principal at Duxbury Park Elementary School. Ms. Barrios Brown has an extensive resume throughout the United States, last serving in Portland, Oregon Public Schools, where she was the vice principal of Cleveland High School. Next, we have Ms. Alicia Flowers. Ms. Flowers will serve as the new principal of Eastmore Academy High School. Ms. Fowler previously served as the assistant principal at Eastmore, and with her assuming the helm now, we are excited of the new possibilities as she carries on with the rich traditions of EA. Next, we have Ms. Janetta Bell. Ms. Bell will serve as the new assistant principal at Lyndon McKinley High School. Ms. Bell has several years here in Columbus City School in administration and teaching and within the district, last serving as the assistant principal at South High School. Next, we have Ms. Randa Hutcherson. Randa is the new principal at Linden STEM Elementary. Ms. Hutcherson served as the former leadership intern and dean of students at Linden. So we are excited we're able to maintain this continuity in leadership as she transitions to her new role. And last but not least, we have Dr. Philippa Renine Craft. She will be the new AP at Windsor STEM Elementary. A former teacher at Ennis, she served as principal of A+ Arts Academy and other supervisory roles prior to coming to Columbus City Schools. So we want to extend the heartiest welcome to each of these dynamic administrators as they take on their new role within Region 6 of Columbus City Schools. Welcome.
Thank you to the area superintendents, and welcome to all our new principals and assistant principals to the district. Let's give them a quick round of applause, please. So finally, I would like to welcome our Chief of Performance, Dr. Russell Brown, and Chief of Curriculum and Instruction, Kira Slowenbach, to present on our summer experience program and the corresponding graduation data. I had the pleasure of attending our summer graduation ceremony this past weekend at East High School. It was inspiring and heartening to see so many of our young people earn their diploma, even if they needed a few extra months in support to get across the finish line. We are proud of the graduates in Columbus City Schools class of 2021, all of whom persevered through a pandemic and showed the grit necessary to succeed in the face of adversity. Congratulations to all. And now I'll turn it over to Kira and Russ. And now I'll turn it over to Kira and Russ to provide
Mr. Johnson's still the principal.
the presentation on our graduation data, and is the data that you have. And then after the presentation, Board President Adair will have a comment before we start digging into our data. All right, so Kira and Russ, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Dixon, President Adair, members of the board. It's great to be with you tonight, and we're excited to share our presentation. I see that it is up. So this evening, Dr. Brown and I will give a brief report on summer experience, particularly focused on graduation and credit completion. Over the course of 6 weeks, Columbus City Schools provided unique in-person learning experience for 7,636 students ranging in grades from preschool through grades 12. Programs were available for all students, and academic and social emotional supports were provided on an as-needed basis, on an as-needed basis, so that regardless of ability level, all students had equitable access. The district's focus this summer was on engagement and empowerment for our students and our educators. So we want to be clear that we wanted to create innovative programming and enrichment opportunities. And it was not our sole intent for our academic services team to target the individual achievement of students, but rather respond to the pandemic learning environment by igniting a passion for learning and teaching and focusing on whole child needs. We see examples of this illustrated here on this slide, and we know that these experiences are critical for gap closing and accelerated learning. Next slide. We want to ensure that we celebrate and honor our partnerships and the robust experience they help provide for our students and our educators. We are so thankful for their collaboration and flexibility as we all shared the same commitment to provide in-person and accessible opportunities for our students that would be fun, challenging, and inspirational. Students in grades 9 through 12 had access to virtual credit advancement program for credit recovery or acceleration. And Dr. Brown will now talk us through those details.
Thank you. So one of the purposes is outlined by the chief of instruction. One of the purposes of summer engagement is to provide students, additional opportunity to engage in coursework, credit-bearing coursework, to close gaps, and provide opportunities for both credit advancement and recovery. There were 1,175 students who attempted a total of 2,090 credit-bearing classes this summer. About 2/3 of those, 68%, were taken as an additional attempt to master content and recover credit. But a full 32% were an active investment of the students' time to accelerate their academic career and to move forward. On this slide, you'll see the racial makeup of the students who pursued credit-bearing classes, and you can see that relative to the system as a whole, Black students were overrepresented in the summer programming. However, I want to point out that our Black students participated in accelerated classes at the same rate as the system as a whole. 32% of our Black students pursued courses that advanced their academic career, accelerated their learning. Next slide, please. On average, students attempted 2 courses and earned 1 credit as a product of this experience. This was true across racial groups, and as you can see, the distribution of earned grades was relatively comparable across groups. In the end, a total of 1,050.25 credits were earned. Not surprisingly, this enabled a number of students to meet their requirements for graduation. It really did help move the needle for that and help close gaps for our 2021 graduates. Next slide, please. At the start of the summer, there were 417 seniors who were still enrolled but had yet to meet the requirements for graduation. As a product of this participation and being able to take credit-bearing classes, 112 students from the 2020-21 cohort, nearly 27% of the active remaining students, met their graduation requirements. And we got to see those across the stage on Saturday. An additional 19 students were early graduates, having met the graduation requirements for the next year and beyond as a product of their participation in summer school. The remaining students, a handful, were from prior cohorts and are now prepared to move on to other post-secondary opportunities, having completed their graduation requirements. In total, 139 students met the requirements for graduation this summer. This is the largest pool of summer graduates observed in the past 4 years. And I think that's really important because that points to pre-pandemic as well. That this engagement opportunity afforded our students an opportunity to meet their requirements for graduation with closed gaps for more students than observed in the last 4 years. Next slide, please. This final slide shows the racial makeup of the summer graduates over the past 4 years. As you can see, Black students were proportionally represented, 53%, it's about the same as the system as a whole. On the other hand, the pool of Hispanic students grew substantially this year. And I'm also pleased to report that within this pool of graduates, there were 45 emergent bilingual students, and that 29 students who'd received special education services also met the requirements for graduation through their participation in this program this summer. With that, I'm happy to pass things back to Ms. Schlumbuck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. So with this, we wanted to represent because we know that there are many stories inside the data, and this is a short video we wanted to share that's a great representation of how with student engagement through innovation and teacher efficacy, we can systemically close our opportunity gaps.
It was really important to focus on the idea of engagement. And what research will tell you is that a 6-week summer experience or summer school, you are not going to be able to fill all of the gaps that our students have coming out of COVID.
So we created a 6-week experience using our teaching methodology where students would learn while solving real and urgent community-based problems on teams.
We were given a list of a bunch of different community partners who we could work with, and then we set up a field trip to go tour the place, see what it's like, meet the people, hear about their story. And then they had 3 weeks to work on a problem that the partner gave them. And then throughout those 3 weeks, did a bunch of different activities with them, lots of research, creating slides, presentations, and then at the end of the 3 weeks, they would give their presentation to the partner.
So for math, for example, they were looking at data, they were looking at charts and graphs and finding the differences in percentages to see how something had grown. For science, we had a group that was looking at trauma-informed care and how trauma can affect the brain. And we had to look at the history of the Linden community. I know for a fact we definitely touched on all 4 core content areas. I'm just so grateful for this opportunity because really I was so disenchanted. And this at least gives me hope that there is a better model. I do applaud CCS again for being innovative enough and forward-thinking enough to take a chance with this model this summer because it was brilliant and the kids were confident and the kids were successful. And the community partners were impressed. And it went well on every level. I think we underestimate our students sometimes, but they can do so many amazing things. And I think this program allows them to show us, you know, look what I can do.
Before coming here, I was like super quiet. Like even at other schools, people thought I didn't talk because I couldn't speak English. That's how quiet I was. In school, my goal was like, memorize stuff and just get the correct answer. My goal was to get an A. But here, my goal is to actually solve real world problems. And that forces me to, you know, be more active with other people and see what's going on in this world.
It actually took my morning away, but something productive to do in the morning. Not just lay around, not do nothing for the summer. I was actually going places, helping businesses, and doing all types of stuff. It was helping me think outside the box. Like, you gotta get all around. Like, you gotta get all the details to make everything come together and be one great masterpiece.
It just made me think that school isn't just on paperwork or on computers. Like, you can actually help people while you're in school. It's helped me learn and grow because I feel like after school, I feel like I can really start helping people. I feel like I won't be stuck in like what I want to do. I feel like I want to help people. Like it's made me think about that a lot.
We're so thankful to our students and our teachers in the Corda Institute that helped make those stories really possible. So our immediate next steps are first and foremost for how to continue to capture and encourage our non-grads after the summer. We are currently establishing a central location and an outreach program so that those students are able to continue to earn credits and we can continue to find unique ways to engage them. In addition to that, we will continue to leverage, we know what is going well. Small group instruction was very effective this summer, and it's one of the reasons we look to build and establish building-based tutoring programs, as well as introduce paper tutoring, which is a 24 hours online tutoring opportunity for our students that they can access through Clever. And Long-term, we know the core of our work focuses on accelerating and extending learning for all of our students, from those that are very successful to the students that struggled academically even before COVID-19. The new post-pandemic research is focused on acceleration. Why? Because with the right strategies like MTSS, intensive tutoring, innovative uses of instructional time and space, they are the best ways to address learning loss and declining student engagement. And with that,
Thank you, Kara and Dr. Brown for that presentation. Now I'll turn it over to Board President Adair, and we can start with our student focus governance model.
Yes, so board members, I am pretty excited. We are going to practice our student focus board governance model and work on our monitoring questions. This is a practice session with real data. We are going to focus on the data that Dr. Brown went through from this memo that you've all received. So take this one. This is the thing you need. And we are going to be using the progress monitoring student outcome document that AJ Crable gave us from the Council of Great City Schools. And we're going to focus on the second page, which is the questions, the who, what, why, and how. The plan this evening is that we are going to spend 20 minutes. This is just a practice session, so in real life, it'll be much longer, but we're practicing today. 20 minutes on the who, what, and why questions. Each board member will have an opportunity to ask a question to the superintendent and pose a follow-up. And then if there's additional follow-ups on that topic or question, we'll let other board members ask questions. Every board member will get an opportunity to ask one question before we open it if we have time. Then we are going to spend 10 minutes on the how. So that's the future. And we will go through the same process where every board member will get an opportunity to ask a question. And if there's time, we will open it up for additional questions. And so remember, and in the document that we have, remember that we want to make sure that we are doing our homework, which I know you've done because you got this stuff early. We are understanding our realities. We're going to keep the conversation going. We are not going to do gotcha governance. This is about understanding and really helping to push to our goals. And we are not going to offer advice. We are here to monitor and ask questions in this moment. Okay, are there any questions about how we are about to work through this? Board Member Ragland.
Yes, my question concerns the superintendent's report. Are we not to ask questions about the report itself?
We will come back to that after we do the monitoring. So if you have questions about the video or anything else that's not part of this, there will be opportunity to ask her. Okay, we're going to do the monitoring part first. So hold that question, Board Member Ragland, okay? All right, is everybody ready? So also in the future, I let you all know that we are going to have additional practice sessions. Today, I will be acting as the keeper of the rule, or the keeper of the governance monitoring and the referee of questions. But each of you will have that opportunity as well to act in this role. And when we do this and have this on a regular calendar, each of you will be assigned a goal or guardrail to be the keeper of, and you will act as the monitor and referee during every time that one comes up for monitoring. So everyone gets an opportunity to ask questions, and everyone gets an opportunity to be the lead monitor, okay? So that's what we will do in the future. All right, I'm gonna set my timer. Okay, we're gonna really try hard. AJ, we hope that we make you proud. I know he's watching or gonna watch us later. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set my timer, and we are gonna be focused on the who, what, or why only. If you ask a how question, I will ask you to hold that question. Also pause and let me think about the question to ensure it is a proper monitoring question before the superintendent asks the question. So Talisa, pause before answering, okay? Board members, Remember that we will review these questions after the fact. So if there's one that you thought, gosh, Jen should have really let that one through, or I wouldn't have let that one through, just make a note of that, and we will come back and learn from that a little bit later, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna hit start, and I would like to start with anyone, a volunteer who has the first question. Remember, you get one question and a follow-up, and then we'll move to the next board member. Board Member Brown will start. Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Talisa, given that this is a really great summer program, and I commend everybody who participated in putting that on, my question is, are we getting the right students into the summer program? Have educators identified other students who would benefit? And what are we doing about getting those students involved?
Your question is, do we have, or who are the students, and are they the right students in the participating in the summer program?
Correct.
Right. So I think there are two, I could clarify. So since the board, you received 2 presentations, and you received one about summer experience as a whole. And then for this exercise, we're only going to focus on the graduates that went to summer program. So, but I can answer it.
So let's not, let's focus on what you can
So
answer it
for
later.
the graduates, did we have the right students? Yes, we had the right students. We had 139 students that actually graduated. We would like to see more students take advantage of summer experience. We knew that some of the seniors had other engagements. For example, many of them were working and could not juggle going to school and work. So we are targeting them in the next steps that Kira Schambach talked about. Those are the next steps to capture those remaining seniors in the active cohort for year 5 graduation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have a follow-up question for Board Member Brown's topic? Okay, then we'll move on to the next question. I see Ragland, then Cole. So Board Member Ragland.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Dixon. My question is concerning the students that were attending the summer graduation who were accelerated, meaning that they graduated this year. They could have graduated next year had they come back to school, but they took the initiative to graduate this particular summer. It seemed as if those students were kind of in one particular school. Do we provide that type of an opportunity at one school in particular, or is this something that can be done throughout schools across the district?
Okay, so half that question is a past, half is a future, so we can pin that. Your question is, why were accelerated students only from one school and not others? And then what can we do is the next is the future.
No, I think my question's in the present because it's asking if
present
that can happen in other schools.
That's a future question. That is a future question, but we will ask it later. So put a pin in that. She can answer the first part, which is, do we know why we only had one school represented in the accelerated graduation?
Okay. No, I don't have that information of why only one school had accelerated students. However, to the second question, I won't answer the second question, but I don't have that information with me now as to why the 19 students that graduated early are from a particular high school. So I will follow up from that one.
Okay, and Board Member, I put a pin. I'll come back to you first to ask that question in the future section. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the
Oh,
report.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I forgot to ask, following my own rules, if there was a follow-up to Board Member Ragland's topic.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Pierce, I'm sorry.
So my follow-up question does relate to Table 2, credit by type by grade, specifically acceleration, going from grades 8 through 12. What gaps existed between students identified as GT and special education or special needs?
Can you repeat that question, please? Dr. Pierce, where are you?
So your
referring to?
analysis, so this
Oh.
would be the executive summary.
Okay.
Page 2, analysis, table 2, credit type by grade. My follow-up relates to all of the accelerated students.
Okay.
In grades 8 through 12. What gaps existed or did gaps exist between students identified as GT or in special education?
Yeah, I don't have that information noted here, so I have to follow up on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. The 8th grade, we did see that 100% of our students are accelerating. What we have found, though, that once students leave the 8th grade and go to 9th grade, they are not accelerating. We are seeing that more students are recovering credits. We believe that is happening. Students have an opportunity while they're in class with their teachers to get their credits. That's the best time. They're with their teachers, they're face-to-face. We have seen, and our data shows, as the national data shows, that in 9th grade, that our students are not matriculating. So something is happening in 9th grade, and we are addressing with additional coaches and making sure our guidance counselors are paying close attention and providing those additional safety nets for our 9th graders when they enter high school. We know high school is a transitional year, and we want to make sure that students have every opportunity to be successful their first year of high school, because it's a difference. Courses are more rigorous, and teachers are making sure that students are more independent learners than they were in K through 8. So we know of some of gaps. We believe that these are pretty much consistent around all of our schools, but I would like to bring that back to the board to exactly examine what specific gaps that are existing. But we do want our students to make sure that they're successful in the classroom the entire semester, where they have teachers that they can go to, they have office hours, they have every opportunity to work hand in hand with their teachers and counselors in school if they need some additional help. And acceleration is the same way. Those that want to accelerate, those are students that are normally more independent learners and need a little something extra. So you find students that are taking additional, taking more courses or doing more extracurriculars to really make sure that they are staying involved in school. But I'll get some more information about what specifically we're doing in all of our regions.
Thank you. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. You kind of started answering some of the questions already, so I do look ahead. I look forward to the report that you'll give that gives us a clearer idea, because my question was pretty much along the same lines, but much more general in terms of what are the good and bad salients that we got from this data about the students that participated in this program. Are there any good or, triumphant or challenges, triumphs or challenges that we can look at as salients that you learned from this data?
Yeah. So specifically to our seniors, well, all of our students, when we look at engagement, right? When our students are engaged in schools and they have those additional safety nets, they are more successful. This year, I want to just remind us that because of the pandemic, we know that we didn't have students that were engaged as we would have liked them, but our regional superintendents and our principals and our teachers were reaching out to our students. They were calling, They were going by their homes. I think the outreach of our teachers and our partners were out too. They were calling and making sure that our students were in session. I mean, I give kudos to I Know I Can. I Know I Can was also reaching out to our students in City Year. We had partners who were working. So I think that additional outreach shows that, you know, our numbers, we had 139 students. Students wanted to graduate. They needed those safety nets and those extra miles that our teachers and partners took, helped our students know that we were there for them to get them through. They could do it academically. It was not, I think, a test of skill. It was just making sure that they know they had support during this pandemic.
Any follow-up on this topic?
Mike.
Or you can ask a question, because you could be up next.
I don't know if it's exactly a follow-up for President Adair, that's why I'm asking. So, and maybe you already answered it. My question or follow-up for that would be is, who do we know is struggling the most with this credit recovery curriculum or strategy?
From our seniors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, could be from anybody.
Yeah. From our, I don't have the analysis for our from our 9th through 11th graders, just from our seniors. And so, so it wasn't a particular school for our students that were struggling. I think it was just the engagement. Our students, we wanted to make sure that our students, that our schools were reaching out to our students to make sure that they were in the building, had additional supports, and many students we knew were working. So we heard from our principals, their students were working, and other students had other responsibilities. So we wanted to make sure that those students had additional time and the safety nets to be successful. Our 9th through 11th grade students, we would get some more additional data, but I wanted you to have some data for this discussion tonight. And we would do more of analysis and bring that back for our 9th through 11th graders.
Any, Dr. Pierce, follow-up?
So I have a follow-up question. It then relates to the executive summary, page 3, figure 2, grades earned. You there, Dr. Dixon?
Yep. Hold just a second. Table.
Figure 2, grades earned. I think it's the page right behind. It's right behind that one.
Oh,
Yes.
this is okay. Sorry. Thank you. Okay.
So this connects to board member Reyes's question. When we look at those students that are struggling, those students that are at the I and the F, what do you see as accounting for that roughly 3.9% all the way up to 9.9% of students that have that I or F?
Well, what we've learned is those teachers did not give, they gave just the I, and that I stands for the incomplete, so we're giving students an extra opportunity to go back and finish their work. So we didn't want students to give up totally. We wanted them to say, hey, if you wanted to start this journey and for some reason you need to stop, you have not received an F, you've not failed. These credits, this opportunity will still be here for you, and you can come back and finish up with a 5-year cohort. So that piece was important, that 5-year cohort is just, we've seen some of the data from the last 5 years, and we've noticed that Columbus City Schools have done a good job graduating students in the 5th year. We want students to come out in 4 years, though, but we know that, we can do it in the 5th year. So the students that received an incomplete do have the opportunity to come back and finish up with a 5-year cohort with those safety nets that were identified on the last screen by Kira. Thank you, Dr. Pierce.
Ready? Yeah. I guess mine's a what/who question. And I don't think you have this data necessarily, or it wasn't in the packet, but it would be interesting to see the breakdown of graduates by region, and then the breakdown of the difference between our seniors that came and the 417, the ones that we didn't get that we're now targeting, if there was a region by that too. I'd like to see that, to see,
Is that a question?
That's in table 4.
That's like a question instead of a request.
table 4.
Executive summary, page 5, graduates by school region. Table 4, I'm sorry, page 5.
The answer is there.
Oh, okay, it is here. Then I would just be interested in seeing the difference between the kids that couldn't come, and if there's a regional trend, just to see if there's a trend, because it will help with the engagement, I think.
So board member, are you asking the superintendent?
I was, but it turned out.
What the regional trend is?
A question.
Are you asking a question? Because you're making a statement.
Or you're making a request.
Oh, yeah, what was the breakdown by region? And then Dr. Pierce pointed out that was already in the data, so my
don't have a
question just got answered.
Okay. Well, are there any follow-ups to table 4 since that is what we're discussing? Dr. Pierce.
So I guess a follow-up would be what currently is happening within our regions that might account for differences we see in enrollment.
Now, why not a future?
In enrollment or?
In the summer experience, so enrollment. Carol, so Board Member Beckerly's question was, is there some variation? A follow-up question to that could be, based upon what we see in table 4, what is currently happening across regions related to enrollment? Are there some regions that are enrolling higher? I'm just trying to give a follow-up question, Carol. We're playing.
Yeah, no, I know we're
Are
playing,
you
but I
trying-
guess my question was more about the graduates
Well, you
and,
didn't
or
actually
the
have a
seniors that
question.
didn't.
Didn't actually ask a question.
No, I know, but I mean,
But I think.
I was
are you
focusing on
trying to
graduates.
correlate table 4 is about graduates. So you're trying to correlate enrollment to graduation?
So as I understood her question, I feel like she was getting at, are there circumstances that are keeping some seniors in our regions from enrolling?
Okay.
So based upon
That
what
was
I
it.
understand Board Member Beckerly's question to be, I'm framing it within the context of a what question. So based upon what we see happening in table 4's enrollment, are there circumstances or conditions that are affecting that enrollment of our seniors?
So what circumstances?
I'm trying to phrase the question for her.
Yeah, instead of arts, what are?
Well, I mean, I guess my question then, if I'm going to go back to it, would be, what patterns, if any, were there with the seniors that didn't enroll?
Yeah.
Because that's really what I was trying to
There
get
you
at.
go. We
That's
got
the
you there.
There we go.
And then that gives you that
Good
follow-up.
job, team. We're learning. We're learning.
I'm
Growth
getting you
mindset.
there. The educator in me came out.
Good.
You
That
have
was
an
a good
answer.
question. Yes, yeah, that was a good question. So, so for that question, for this exercise, I would have to defer to the area superintendents.
I'm sure.
Because the area superintendents was working with their principals in those regions. So I can table that, or I can bring up the area superintendents to speak to that. But I know
We have just a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
You can
in
table
our
it.
Right, okay,
pack.
table it. But that is a great question, because there was a regional strategy for all of the schools, and the area superintendents work with all of the principals. Because if we remember, if I can state this, we had 139 graduates. We knew there was 412
Right.
in the cohort, so it's a good question. And then we had we had 139 that actually finished, and the other 200 and something we were targeting for the 5th-year cohort.
Right. I was trying to get at the group of the cohort that didn't participate.
Correct, right.
Is there any proportionate regional representation?
Okay. All right, we're gonna move into the how now. So we're gonna spend 10 minutes in the how, and this is the future looking, the future questions. So we're gonna go to Board Member Ragland, who I promised I'd come back to. I know he disagrees with my call, but that's part of the learning process. So you can ask your question now.
I don't know if I disagreed with it. Yeah, we need more practice.
It's okay.
What I'm trying to understand, I got to think about how I want to put this.
You want me to come back?
No. Does the opportunity exist for accelerated graduation in all high schools throughout the district? And are we promoting that to students in every school? And kudos to and I met the young people, outstanding young people, really hard charging young people, really have their head on straight, knew exactly what they wanted to do. However, I'm wondering if we're able to do that at some of our neighborhood schools. And if so, how does a young person know that that is a possibility? When do they know that that is a possibility? And if you don't have the answer to those types of things now, that's something that I'd like to understand. If it takes a little bit more time to kind of delve into that,
Yes.
I completely understand.
Right, thank you, but I do want to clarify, and I think, I'm looking through the sheets to make sure, I'm trying to figure out where that number came from, because I misspoke when we said earlier that the 19 early graduates.
No, I did not say that we're 19.
No, but I know in the data we had early graduates that were accelerated. I think I stated they may have come from one school, but they didn't, they came from across the district. So to your point, the opportunity is available for all students across all high schools to graduate early. You see this as students take advantage of College Credit Plus. So some students may take high school credits plus college credits and may see that opportunity to graduate early and go right into Columbus State or some other programs. So that is available for all of our students. We know that we need to inform students across the district early in every school that this opportunity is afforded to them, especially students that go into our career tech programs. You can graduate early and get a great job. And there are programs that you can finish your high school credit, you can go into those businesses. So we are, as part of our Portrait of a Graduate and that work, and part of our Portrait Seal, we are making sure that students know earlier about all the opportunities that they have to go into the workforce, go to college, and it doesn't have to happen in that 12 or 13-year span from pre-K to 12 or from K to 12. They can get these experiences outside or with during their high school years. And that's part of that pathway work that our academic team is working on, making sure that those pathways to a diploma, to post-secondary education is clear for all of our students and their parents.
Thank you. Is there a follow-up to this? Okay, then it's Board Member Colden Reyes. Do you have a follow-up, Board Member Ragland?
Yes, I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I think, well, no, we're not allowed to give advice.
No advice, only questions right now.
Is our academic team working with our athletic department regarding the new NIL guidelines that have student athletes at the high school level looking to graduate early? Because we have students around the country now who would be seniors that are typically graduating as juniors because they're accessing scholarships at an earlier age, as well as financial resources into their bank accounts at an earlier age. And I'm asking if we have been thinking about this and incorporating our athletic team, because this is now a very popular phenomenon that is new, and we will have student athletes that may want to accelerate for this very reason. And are we working with our athletic team? That's not an advice.
I know,
you did good.
your question is, how is the academic and athletic team working with student athletes if they would like to accelerate?
There you go.
Oh, I like
Yes,
that.
Right.
that was very good.
Thank you. So what we've recently completed is we shifted the athletic department to another department.
Oh.
And we have shifted them to student services. We wanted to make sure that the athletic department had a closer relationship with academics and utilize it because we're focused on equitable opportunities and making sure resources that students understand the opportunities for them to participate in athletics and extracurricular activity, and that alignment is there, so we're able to know what athletes are in what students are connected to what athletic programs. So that was one of the shifts that we just recently made to make sure that that the academic department and student services more closely working with athletes.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. That includes my questions, Madam President.
Thank you, Board Member Ragland. Dr. Pierce has a follow-up.
The follow-up question is, how might that shift show up in our future budgets?
Yep. Thank you. I don't know at this moment, but we are doing some assessments. And so as we create what that framework is going to look like, I will make sure we share with the board. But one of those big shifts is we want to make sure that even utilizing our platforms like Infinite Campus, you could go to Infinite Campus and, for example, I can pull up James Ragland and I can see James Ragland is playing football for Independence High School, right? And he has a 4.0 GPA.
Yes, he does.
He certainly does.
And he has got. So I think part of that is not seeing athletics as an operational, but seeing it as connected to the student experience. And I know that's what the board has been talking about for a long time. And that once we see it as that whole child focus, that's athletic activities and extracurricular activities is a part of that. So as we continue to assess those departments and those experiences, I would come back to the board and say, here are some experiences we need to create, and here are some experiences we may need to move away from.
One more follow-up question. I love that we're speaking of athletics. So, how are we going to address video licensing laws, regulations, given that students do have the opportunity to graduate early to use image likeness as it relates to us showing games on Facebook, on our platforms, and images of students?
Yeah, so everyone's looking at me so that's a great question, Dr. Pierce, but I'm going to call that not in bounds of the data we have in our hands, but something we can put a pin in and ask the superintendent to look at.
I didn't think any of those last questions went with the data in hand as we were moving towards it.
Well, now we're really far, so we're going to go ahead and put a pause in that. And we're going to go to Board Member Cole for his question.
Thank you, Madam President. Can anybody
Here, you
can
have
I be
to.
heard? I can just
I don't
be
think so.
audible.
'Cause
No, the people in.
in the here.
You want me to go? You want me to go?
I'll wait.
What?
Do you want me to do my question?
All right, we're
There you
back.
go.
Here he's on.
In interest of expansion of this summer experience, in interest of equity regarding this experience, how are we going to measure from ninth grade on, how are we going to measure readiness towards graduation with this as a possible metric?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yes, I will move to rephrase. How will we measure graduate readiness using this summer experience, using future summer experiences?
That's a good question. How will we
measure
measure
the readiness of a cohort to graduate
Yeah.
using these summer experiences?
Right.
The data.
Right. So one, moving forward, we're going to reshape our summer experience. Remember, this summer we were focusing on hands-on learning to get our students excited about learning again, and to not come back and focus on recovery. So in the past, where you see where students, our summer school was focused on students that did not pass their courses, they go and make them up in an online version, or for some of our elementary students who were not reading, and they would go to summer school to close those gaps so they could move to the next grade. So now, as we look at what are those experiences we want our students to have during the school year, and how in the summer, if they didn't get those experiences, how can we bridge that, right? What we don't want our students to do is to sit during a classroom for an entire semester, not engage and not move forward, and then go to a summer school for 6 weeks and try to capture all of that they were supposed to have during that entire semester. So we are still working on that piece. What is that alignment of that? What does that look like? How could we possibly utilize technology? So if we see students that are for the first 3 or 4 weeks in school that are not engaged, maybe we can put them on a different platform to finish up or make up. So we just really reimagining the entire experience as we move forward and put in those metrics too. So it's a great question. We're still working on what that will look like. And then when we get there, I will bring that back to you.
I thank you very much for that.
Board members, we are past our 10 minutes that was allotted for this portion of the practice, and that would mean we are done with our practice for this monitoring around this set of data. So I think that was an interesting practice. We have things to keep working on. I think all of you that wanted to ask questions, please ask those to the superintendent. In our sheets, we have a little scorecard about how we think that we did. Please take a look at that, and on your own, give us a score, and we will continue working on this with AJ. I want to keep incorporating these practice sessions as much as we can, so that when we get to the monitoring, we are ready to go. So I think this was great. Let me know. You could debrief with me, and we'll just keep on practicing. So now I'm going to open it up to other questions about the superintendent's report, other things that you saw, or other documents that we received. You can, if you have additional questions that you really want to ask about the graduation, you can certainly do that as well. So Board Member Brown, and I think Board Member Ragland, Dr. Pierce.
Thank you. Dr. Dixon, I wanted to go back to the topic that I had my first question about, and though it deals with those students who are not engaged in a summer program at all. Many of them probably should be. And my question has to do with how are you dealing with that? And are there some improvements that can be made in dealing with that? For example, in your response, you were talking about some of the obstacles some students have, jobs, et cetera. Are there some ways that we can remove some of those obstacles or reduce them, for example, by having more flexible summer programs that allow students to work part of the time and do summer programming on a different schedule than what it is? The other thought would be could we, would we want to, and can we accomplish actually doing one-on-ones with every single student to discuss their summer plans? It might be that they're going to do these summer experiences. It might be that they're going to do work or that they're going to go to camp. But for an educator to meet with each of them and offer thoughts on, gosh, maybe you want to consider doing some of these educational related things as part of your plans.
Thank you. I think you're stating, and what we all want, summer experience should be that, just that, an experience. It should all be accelerated if all possible, right? So we should we're striving to ensure that the students' experience during the school year is maximized. And then what happens in summer, to your point, is extra, right? And it could be experiencing what you learned, right? It could be, they did all project-based this summer. So you thinking about a project-based learning opportunities for all of our students, just like what we had this summer. I think that can be rewarding, So if you think we had almost 8,000 students participate in hands-on project-based learning experience with partners from across the city, I think we've started a movement, as the new principal of world language stated. To your point, that this is an opportunity that we want our students to showcase what they've learned during the school year, with the safety nets and guided by teachers and other professionals from our partners to guide this experience. I would like to see next summer that we double what we had this summer. We had almost 8,000. I would like to see 16,000 students next summer engaged in a summer experience of this type, so that they're learning in the city in which they live and partnering with organizations that we're going to give them experience that we cannot give them in a normal school year.
Thank you. That's helpful. And just for clarity, I am not in any way discouraging the current program. I love the current program, and it's great and you're doing well. I'm just thinking about ways we can do even more.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
Board Member Ragland.
I have a follow-up to Board Member Brown's question and then my own. Is that okay?
That is fine.
Okay. So with what Board Member Brown was asking, have we thought about looking at the data that we're gleaning here, really taking a deep dive with what we're seeing at Woodcrest in our year-round schooling there, and seeing if there may be some future opportunities in that context? I mean, we've got a good thing going here. We're in the midst of a facilities master plan process right now. Mm-hmm. It may be good for us to take a look, and maybe you have, and I'm asking if you have, taken a look and seeing if there may be some opportunities to do some expansion in the year-round schooling based on the success that we've had just very quickly here. Have we thought about that?
Now, what we have thought of, what we will do rather, is when we start looking in the data, once we start looking at our calendars, we will be able to see what's happening at Woodcrest. And when we see the successes at Woodcrest and other schools, I would be able to come back to the board and say, because of what we're seeing, I need additional resources so that we can replicate some of these programs throughout the district. So that goes back to that equitable opportunities and those resources.
Yes, okay, then my question, thank you for that. Under the credits and grades earned section, it talks about the fourth bullet point says, on average, 50% of the grades earned were C or above concerning the summer program, I believe.
Okay.
How does that correspond to what happens throughout, the rest of the year, in our grades? And what do we attribute that too. If students are participating, but only 50% of them are seeing a C or above, have we identified what some of those challenges are so that we could maybe do something else to help some of those students that may have struggled a little bit?
Have we identified the challenges from the summer school?
Yes, ma'am.
So I would have, I know Kira is here. Kira,
Okay.
if we can bring Kira back up and she can speak to the data we collected in summer school and how that connects to our future planning for this upcoming school year.
Yes, ma'am. And my question is, I mean, are we, on average, 50% of the grades earned were C or above? Is that the case throughout the school year, or, you know?
I don't have that data in front
Okay.
of me to
Yes, ma'am.
speak to that, so I don't want to
Okay.
guess.
Understood. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Dr. Dixon, did you want me to step in?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank
so exactly, we don't have that specific data, but we can say that summer experience is very different than a regular or typical school year in that our students are earning credits in a very finite amount of time. And then if they need to earn additional credits beyond that, they're moving on. So it's not similar to what is happening during the typical academic school year.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Pierce.
So my question does take us back to the athletics. Given that you shared that that move is happening and the shift is being made, are we currently considering our consensual agreements, our licensing agreements for district events, particularly in regards to athletics?
I have to follow up with you on that question.
Anything else? Okay, Vice President Reyes.
Thank you. Dr. Dixon, so I'm going back to the seniors. We talk a lot about the number of seniors that went to summer school. So my question is, how many seniors in the upcoming year are still in need of recovery? And are we using similar innovative strategies like this summer for credit recovery opportunities? Because you talked a lot about engagement. So we keep saying that, you know, maybe we're not reaching them during the year, so we got the summer. So again, how many seniors are we still in credit recovery, and are we using similar innovative strategies for them to do credit recovery? So we're not waiting for the end of the year, and now we have seniors graduating in the summer.
Correct. So on that last slide that Kira brought, it showed the next steps. And so we have, it's about a little over 200 of our seniors from that cohort of 412. And so those students that will be targeted, and I don't know if we can pull that presentation back up, but it was the last slide that spoke to the strategies that the district has taken for that particular group. So to your point, we don't want to wait to the end. I'm sure it's on that last page. You see it?
I don't know if it
Was the tutoring?
It's not on that, maybe on the
we don't have it.
presentation.
I think
Okay.
Kira had it. I don't think we have it.
Can we pull that here?
There
you
it
go.
is. She got it.
So,
that wasn't
no,
this
go
one.
back
No,
a
it was a
slide, go
different one.
back.
Last slide.
It's not that one, yeah. Go
It
back.
had the tutoring piece
Yeah,
on the
what you're
right
doing for
side.
If you can go back, please, another,
the seniors that didn't make it.
yeah, so that one.
Mm.
No, what, that one.
Up one.
No, that one, yeah, there you go.
That's it.
So it shows the district's next steps. So we're gonna have recovery in advance, district non-grad support, gonna have a central location for students to go in person and virtual extended hours. Again, we don't want students to have to wait.
So those are the innovative credit recovery. But do we know how many students?
It was a little over, it's Dr. Brown, if you have that number, it was 200, I think it's 200 and around 250 roughly of that, that we did not get through.
417 minus 100.
Yeah. So you did the 412, it was a 412 students that were in that cohort.
And this included the kids that
139.
didn't attend?
139 got
Yeah, 139 graduated.
But some
So,
of those were the,
yeah, so that's about 173 students.
Who would still need credit recovery in order to graduate in time for this upcoming school year?
Yeah.
She's talking.
Yeah, they would be the
about two
fifth
different
year
groups.
cohort. Remember, they're the
about the
fifth
ones
year
that we
cohort.
capture.
So this summer was the final year for the 4-year cohort.
Mhm.
So anyone that did not did not graduate last Saturday will be considered in the 5th year cohort. And those are the students that we've outlined as strategy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't want, the goal is to get our students in the
I'm talking
4-year
about the
cohort.
Upcoming ones.
Yeah, you're
But,
talking
I'm talking about the upcoming ones.
that are just
The ones
starting
supposed to
seniors.
You mean the
Rising
class
seniors.
The class of
oh, the
20,
class of 20, my
2022.
apologies, the class of
That's okay.
2020.
I didn't.
Yeah, because we
Rising
still, right,
seniors.
because we
There's so
still
many
have,
ta-
yeah. Because we still have a group of students we still want to get through.
Right.
And those are the ones in the 5th year cohort.
Right.
So your question is for our upcoming seniors
yes.
of the class of
Yeah.
2022.
How many seniors in the upcoming year?
Yeah, so
are
I'll have to
still-
get, I don't know that that data of the cohort, but I can provide that information for you.
Perfect. And then
Yeah, but the strategies will still be.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
strategy.
strategies will still be the
similar.
same.
The second question that I had was, we mentioned a lot about having double the number of Hispanic students enrolling. Do we know why? There was an increase in Hispanic students enrolling in summer school? Was it because they needed recovery? Do we know?
Yeah, all the students that were enrolled, you mean for seniors or overall?
So, let me look for where that.
If you're looking at that
slide.
data, it's the senior data. Are you looking at overall
Look at
data?
figure 1.
I think it was
Which
overall
one?
where it mentioned it.
So
was both.
under table 3, it will show you that we had 31 students that were Hispanic out of the 139. Is that the?
Or are you looking at figure 1, the composition who pursued credits this summer?
You have to see it in color. It's harder to.
I know, I just remembered the data point.
I mean, the executive. Overall, their population did increase, though.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So again,
Here it
there's-
is.
Overall, their population
This
did
one.
increase.
Oh, okay. But he's talking
There's
summer.
summer graduation.
He's
There's
talking about the summer graduates.
Yeah, the Hispanic graduate pool grew substantially.
Mhm.
Right.
Do we know why? Do we know why? What's that, what?
Do we know why more Hispanic students were in summer school to graduate as seniors rather than graduating
Why was-
in the spring?
It
Well-
says the Hispanic graduate pool grew substantially
Correct.
this year.
This year?
Right, for
Yeah.
summer, for
And
summer.
do we know
school.
why?
For
So
graduation.
it'd be figure 4.
Summer graduation by race.
Dr. Dixon, figure
Here it
4.
is.
Yeah, thank you. So your question is, I want to make sure I understand your
It's a
question.
great data point. So it says the Hispanic graduate pool grew
Ye-
substantially.
Maybe or maybe
Right,
not. I
right,
think
right.
It depends
right.
on the
It
reason.
depends on I'm trying to get clarity on the question. Are you asking,
What is the growth of that?
yeah,
Right.
because we have students that,
What's
remember,
that growth attributed to?
the growth from students that did not graduate on time, because summer grads are students that did not graduate on
I'm not
time.
asking it right.
She's not asking that.
Yes,
No,
so what is she
What
asking?
she's asking is what contributed to the growth of Latino students who participated in the summer experience?
So like if typically it's only 20% of the summer
Correct,
school
so the
grads, why
entire
is it
summer
50
experience
now?
and not summer, not
No,
the seniors?
She's saying graduation.
Right, okay.
Are you
let's
saying
go back.
graduation?
The data,
I'm talking about that slide.
Yeah,
but the
that's
data
fine.
you're looking at is graduation data, not the entire.
Proportion of summer graduates by race, 22.3. So you're saying that there's double the number of Hispanics. So you're telling me that double the number of Hispanics were failing and that's why they had to go to summer school? Are you telling me that the number doubled because now we made great outreach
Yes.
and Hispanics now
Yes.
know that they can go to summer school?
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you're,
Yes.
if it's a good bullet point or a bad bullet point, I guess.
Well, it's a good
Exactly.
bullet, it's a
No,
good
you're right.
bullet
You know?
point when you're talking about getting students graduated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, but remember that the goal is to get as many students graduated in June. Secondly, we had a number of students, 410 students, that we had a specific outreach and supports for students to get them done in summer school. And then from that outreach, we had a large number of Hispanic students who knew that they were going to have the support, specifically the language support, all the supports that they needed to graduate.
There's a
Yeah.
response to that.
So, thank you. So I'm sorry, I just need to understand the question. So, but the,
Yeah.
but the
Because
goal.
something
changed.
Something changed, so all of a sudden Hispanics saying, well, you know what?
I don't
Instead
want to
of
drop out.
working-
I'm going, it's working.
Instead
I
of
don't
working
wanna-
this summer,
I'm going to
I
go to
think I'm gonna
school
go to
and
summer
be.
school and do
yeah.
the credit recovery.
Exactly, yeah. So it's the safety nets, it's the language supports. I think, what we tried to show, if we support our students and they are aware of the supports that are available to them, and we inform their parents, our students know the importance of the high school diploma. They know the support, they know the importance of having it, and we are clearly outlining the pathway, the success for them once they get their high school diploma. So, sorry I didn't understand your question initially, but I knew it was something good you were trying to say, but I didn't want us to, I wanted to make sure I didn't interpret it as we want, students to graduate in summer. We want them to finish in June, but we provided some additional supports for them to participate in summer and to get it. So thank you.
Yeah, because for me, it's like if we highlight something that's good or bad,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what's behind that bullet point. If we're
Yeah.
gonna highlight it, what's behind
Yeah.
we highlighted it for a reason. Somebody that said, hey, this is a good data point.
Yes.
Let's add it to a slide, but nowhere in the document
Yeah.
was there a reason as to why that bullet point was made, driven, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Grace, you have a follow-up or a new question?
I have a follow-up, and Dr. Dixon, I don't know if this is a question for you or Dr. Brown. I would be interested to know, in terms of figure 4, what was the percentage change of students in those demographic areas? So the discussion we're having right now assumes that the student population for each of those student demographic areas did not change across the years that are highlighted, thus saying that a larger increase was achieved this year, when it could be the fact that in 2017, 2018, we had a smaller portion of Hispanic students. So if Dr. Brown could provide the context, or should we take it as that increase was in alignment with the proportional representation of student demographics? I just want us to clearly, if we're going to, as a board and as a district, say that this increase was achieved, that it aligns with the actual student enrollment that we saw across each year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Thank you, it makes sense. And we can bring that data back and we can provide that in your update on Friday.
Board Member Beckerly.
Okay, I have a question about taking what we learned in terms of instructional strategies from the summer and figuring out how to leverage that and scale that into the school year. And I think that I guess I'm hoping there's a team or there's somebody who's dedicated to that. And it occurs to me that how we do that is we can't do it en masse. We have to scale it and we have to be intentional about it. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity in terms of trying to achieve equity, that we focus on our neediest students, our neediest schools, when we say, okay, we want to start doing this project-based learning in the classroom during the school year, and we're going to go to X school where they've been struggling the most because we need to engage them. And so I guess it's kind of advice, but it's mostly a question of what are we doing and how can we not lose the momentum and the wisdom of what we learned, because those kids were speaking to us.
That's right.
Right.
They were really speaking to us, and I'm sure that if we had videos of all the elementary school kids, they would be speaking to us similarly.
Yeah.
And let's make sure we, in terms of our prioritizing, we bring that instruction to the kids that will most benefit from it.
Right, exactly. Thank you. So I can have Kara and or Kenny to speak to some of the exciting things that we will be doing from the learnings. If they can come back up, either Kenny, Lee, or Kara, whichever. Okay, they're both here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. So there were a lot of successful instructional practices happening this summer, one of which were that small group instruction and targeted tutoring opportunities, which is exactly how we intend to leverage them into this year, either with paper tutoring and that innovative partnership, but also in small group tutoring at the building level. And to your point, Board Member Beckerly, we can do that at the building level. It doesn't have to be large scale because we can target it there as well. And this year is the first year, and I'll pass it over to Kenny, but that we've had the Department of Acceleration and Extended Learning. And under that leadership, really leveraging innovative ideas to continue to engage student, because we know engagement translates into achievement. So Kenny, I can pass it to you.
Board Member Beckerly, it's I would just say that it's important to know that every teacher and staff member that we have trained that have gone through the professional development, the project-based professional development, many of them, a lot of them are still with us, and they're going to take these innovative practices back to their schools. And so come August 26th and the first day of school, we're hoping to see that same project-based learning that was so great and so beneficial to our students during the 6-week summer experience. It's going to be a 36-week experience for our students. And we hope to grow the teacher cohort that are trained in project-based learning so that we can replicate the innovative practice system-wide.
If I'd love to see some way to capture the data and the results of that. You know, who's doing progress-based, project-based learning? You know, what levels are we seeing increase in outcomes? It's funny because I think I'm talking to them, but they're not there anymore, and I'm talking to myself, and that's really weird. But you know, I guess part of my question and part of my thought was, let's be targeted or somehow capture that, or let's make sure the kids who really need it are getting it. That's the bottom line, and monitor it to see if it results. I mean, presumably, or not even presumably, I'm confident that the more we do that, the better outcomes we're going to get. But it'd be nice to prove it.
Absolutely.
My question is not necessarily a follow-up. Well, it is not a follow-up to Board Member Beckley's question. So, am I clear to ask that?
Just 1 second. Board Member Cole, did you have any questions before we go to a second round of questioning? Okay, Board Member Beckley.
I'm listening.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to return back to your superintendent's report, Dr. Dixon, for a moment. And you talked about blend ed. I was approached by a parent currently participating in blend ed, but is expecting to get a job possibly, you know, once the school year starts. If there is a status change for the family, do we have an opportunity to move those students back into the regular educational environment? So say I start off blend ed, week 3, something changes for the family. Can I go to Scottwood?
Can you enrolled in your homeschool?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can.
Okay, now vice versa. If I am at Scottwood, week 3, and I need to go to blend ed, can I do that?
I have to follow up with you on that because we have staffed our blend ed according to the students we have verified their enrollment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My next follow-up, if I'm allowed that. My next follow-up, if I'm in blend ed, something changes for me, I go back to Scottwood. How closely aligned is the curriculum so that whatever I'm learning in blend ed is easily transferable, or at least
Yeah.
closely aligned to what is happening at Scottwood.
Yeah, very closely aligned, and that's one of the things we corrected for this year, and we heard from our parents, and we have our teachers. Those students will also be getting experiences outside of the classroom, and they also will also be in learning sometimes in the buildings. And I can have Kenny come back on and speak to Blend Ed, but there will be a closer alignment to Blend Ed than what we experienced last year in our digital academy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I think one of the things, how we market that process, whether or not I can transfer back into my home school, I think we need to be even more deliberate in making certain that families know that. I know that the information is accessible, but it seems as though there may be families that we're having some breakdown, and they're not necessarily understanding that. I just would like for us to make sure that we're highlighting that as we go. But I'd appreciate getting that other information back to you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Board Member Ragland, and we'll end with Dr. Pierce's question.
So this is just a general question. Given that there are a number of questions related to the reopening, can we expect an executive summary from you at our next meeting? Or when can we expect an executive summary kind of around the opening processes and those nature of things?
So if you have any additional questions about opening, just please submit those to me. I can get that summary to you. Tomorrow night, you can also, as a parent, tune in to our virtual family session where we will have all that information. And all the information has been on our website. So I wanted to let parents know, please go to the website. All of the information is there. And also feel free to contact your school building principal too. So we have pretty much the same strategies, the mitigation strategies we've had in place since the spring. And remember, we wore a mask in summer, and we'll be continuing to wear masks this year. But if you want some specific information as a board member that I've not presented, I can definitely follow up and provide that for you by the end of the week.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to item 5, our internal.
Just a moment, please. If we could make sure that same information about reopening gets to our teachers and staff,
Oh, yes.
that would be helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move to item 5, the internal auditor's report. Hello, Auditor Smith.
Hello, President Adair. I don't have a formal report this evening, but I would like to announce that Audit and Accountability is scheduled to meet September the 2nd in person, and we're getting the location square, but most likely it will be at this location. But as soon as we square everything out, I will let everyone know.
Great. Thank you so much, Auditor Smith. All right, we'll move to item number 6, the Treasurer's report. Hello, Mr. Treasurer.
Good evening, and thank you. I do have a PowerPoint to present to you. There we go. And this is the monthly financial report for June. And I will say I took to heart from the board retreat a couple of weekends ago, and we went on a little bit of a financial report diet as we prepared this. So let's see how we do.
Okay.
This is for the month of June, the final month of the fiscal year 2021. On a year-to-date basis, revenues ended up at a little over $1 billion on a plan of $970 million. Expenditures were within $437,000 on $1.5 billion in expenditures. Cash balance was over planned by about $33 million, as you can see here, all due to revenue increases. This plan was based upon November of 2020 5-year forecast. As you know, we've done a May forecast, and much of these increases were already built into that May forecast. And so if you look at just the contribution the cash balance would make to the May forecast, these results would contribute about $14 million more to the ending cash balance. So I captured all about $20 million of it in the May forecast. looking at how our actual cash balance did from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. This year, we only spent down our cash balance a mere $2.4 million, and that's good news. When we get into the year-to-date revenue variances, you'll see that the bulk of the $32.5 million in revenue variance was in the state revenue category, and much of that, the BWC dividend, the partial restoration of the cut, and the receipt of casita revenue, were items that were either unplanned or unexpected. And all the other revenue variances accounted for just $5.8 million of that $32.5. On the expenditure side, a little bit different graph. You can see the zero line being on plan is right in the middle. There are 4 categories of expenditures that were under plan: personnel, charter, all other non-personnel, and advances out. And then the only item that was significantly over plan was that transfer out that the board authorized to fund the pupil transportation replacement plan. So with that, I think in record time, that concludes my report for the monthly financial report of June. And what we're going to focus down and took a serious look at, I heard what AJ said, and to consider what is it that the board has to do statutorily, which is really in my domain statutorily, and then I think he talked about other things that you had to prove having to do with student performance. So when we look at those things, we started with this board has to place the operating levy on the ballot, and this board has to adopt a 5-year plan, 5-year financial forecast. So we're looking at those two and looking at what information do we need to report to you in a concise manner that will tell you that something's going on financially that will impact the 5-year forecast such that it impacts the timing of a levy. And we're going to focus on that. That was my kind of 4 a.m. epiphany. So we're working on this, and we're learning too and practicing just like you are. So if this works for you, it certainly works for us. And it was, as for your learning, it's not easy to go from much to concise. So
It was very impressive, Stan.
thank you.
And I appreciate you really jumping on both feet to this new governance model and taking into heart what we're trying to do and be really student focused and really focused on our work. And I think that there will be times where the finances align with the academics, where we might need deeper dives into certain areas depending on making a need to change resources due to equity or some other thing. So I really, really appreciate the work you and your team did. And so I'm gonna have board members ask questions and then share a few reflections with Stan to let him know how you like this. I saw board member Cole first, maybe. Did you have your hand up?
Well, I wanted to preface his comments really by, thank you, Madam President. I wanted to preface his comments, or at least support them, by saying that where I appreciate him taking that deep dive, or that much more short or concise look at our financial position, and his explanation also of what his duties are to us via Ohio Revised Code. At the same time, he's done a yeoman's job over the years of giving us very lengthy but concise information about where we are. We discuss these things still at length in our committee meetings, and my expectation is that we continue that. Now, for those who in the future want that type of information, please feel free to request it. We can make that information available. Any of you, well, I guess I can't say that. You're certainly welcome to view or watch so that we're in compliance with Sunshine Law. You are more than welcome to watch our Finance Account and Appropriations Committee. But I definitely want to make sure that we don't steer away from giving the kind of information a little above and beyond what is requested. I actually value that as this committee chair. I value our going above and beyond. I think that's important. It is something that supports, augments, foundations the idea of our concern of the whole student. If we're not financially in a position to meet what our due diligence is, we can't serve children or their families. So I see this as all, a part of a circle. So I just wanted to say that I'm a little off today. My eyesight is just bugging me, and but either way, I just wanted to make sure I said that so that we don't just get in this habit of, giving you a bunch of short information when we have a heck of a lot more data that we discuss in a committee.
Board Member Beckerly.
Well, I think picking up on that, and I think Michael said, he talked about the foundation. I think it's a lot easier to accept these short and concise things, reports, because we've seen the data that's behind it. And so I appreciate knowing that it lets this feel more reliable. The other thing, though, that I think going forward that the board would appreciate seeing, and it's probably going to require some creativity on, or not creativity, or just thinking differently about the reports, is that as we dig deeper into monitoring and keeping track of our goals, tracking the spending to what we're doing to achieve the goals in such a way so that we're seeing if it's paying off, return on investment kind of thinking about it. So as, all right, here's an example. So all the teachers that got the project-based training, right? How much did that cost? How did we do it? Let's see if the students' performance got better, or, that's a very simple thing. And
You had a good example this evening. You had a report on the summer experience. How much did it cost?
Say that again?
How much did it cost?
How much did it cost?
And
let's track those kids for a year. So, and so that's marrying the costs with the outcomes. And I think as
It's
we get
not-
more serious about monitoring what the initiatives are or monitoring the outcomes, keeping track of what they're costing us.
And I think you do just what they did. You lead with the program. And one of the items perhaps at the end is, and this was our investment in this program. I would not do it the other way around, because you focus simply on the dollars, not the program and the outcome. The idea is to focus on program and outcome, and know then what have we invested to achieve that. I'm with you.
And then baseline and before and after with the kids.
Board Member Brown.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that I do like this approach a great deal. I think that not only do we have an overview at the board meeting, but we also want to continue to make sure that all board members have access to the information, the same information that the Finance Committee looks at. And in my view, and I think we should ask our counsel, James Barnes, I believe that other board members can attend but not participate in those meetings.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
to come to Finance Committee and watch the report in much greater depth, I think, it benefits me. It's what I would be doing regardless, and I think it's, available to everybody to get as far into the weeds as they'd like.
Board Member Ragland.
Yeah, I just want a short follow-up to Board Member Beckerly's question and statement, and I do agree with that discussion. I think that becomes even more important as we have new federal dollars that are coming in based on COVID, and we're doing a lot of that spending that's based on student achievement. Those are short-term dollars. They're not always going to be with us. And if we can start that as a best practice in doing that, making sure, okay, these are ESSER funds that we use for this right here. And if we can show that those funds are being used in a way that's benefiting students greatly, it's easier for us to justify maybe moving some general fund over for those types of dollars for the long term. And so I think that's one way you make, and I'm not trying to advise, I'm asking, would you be willing to consider doing something like that moving forward?
Well, I will say to my colleague Stan, and along with Catherine Mosier, and the team, they're doing just that. I mean, Catherine and is working closely with making sure that we know not only the what, but the who. Because of our district, our size, we anticipate being audited, right, on what
Right.
we're doing. And then you're talking about sustainability. So that goes back to the overall resource questions. You know, what are we doing well that we want to sustain? And what are we going to stop doing so that we have the funding to continue it?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think we're pretty much set up, and Stan could attest to that, that we are setting up a structure so we can monitor those programs that we believe that we want to keep moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one closing comment, and I think I had this view correct, and it's supported by comments from Board Member Cole. We were talking about reports and information the board receives in this format, and that will be different than what we see in a committee format. So I wasn't trying to shortchange anyone, but just to say, this is a board meeting, this is the critical information you need here, and that is derived from that more in-depth discussion that we have at committee. So that's a point well made, and I already had that going on in my head. So I think we're good to go.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, you know, what AJ is teaching us. You know, we all have to do our homework and do it in a way that makes sense so we can do the job we do to sit here. And so if, just like Board Member Brown said, you're not on the Finance Committee, I know Board Member Beckerly regularly goes back and watches just about every committee meeting, even though she's not on them, because she finds that beneficial. Some attendant person. I mean, that's part of what we do. We have to be educated. But I appreciate, as we're trying to change the governance model and the format of this meeting to be really focused on our students and the goals and guardrails that we in the community have selected. It's appreciated, Stan, what you're doing. And no, it doesn't negate anyone's responsibility from knowing everything in that full report that you present and you create with the committee. And, you know, Board Member Cole chairs that committee, and it's a great committee with those professionals on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to item 8, notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees. Number 8.1, notice of public hearing on the reemployment of Walta M. Hayes pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 3309.345. The Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Walta M. Hayes, full-time bus driver, who retired from Columbus City Schools effective May 31st, 2016, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as a full-time bus driver effective November 15th, 2021. The board will hold a public hearing on October 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at a location designated for the public meeting of the Board of Education or virtually in the case of a continued pandemic on the issue of Ms. Hayes' reemployment. 8.2, notice of public hearing on reemployment of Joyce A. Mix. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 33.09.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Joyce A. Mix, full-time bus driver, who retired from the Columbus City Schools effective January 30th, 2017, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as a full-time bus driver, effective November 15th, 2021. The board will hold a public hearing on October 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at a location designated for the public meeting of the Board of Education or virtually in the case of a continued pandemic on the issue of Ms. Mix's reemployment. Item 8.3, notice of public hearing on the reemployment of Wendy G. Watson. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 33.9.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Wendy G. Watson, full-time bus driver, who retired from the Columbus City Schools effective March 31st, 2016, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as a full-time bus driver effective November 15th, 2021. The board will hold a public hearing on October 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. the location designated for the public meeting of the Board of Education or virtually in the case of the continued pandemic on the issue of Ms. Watson's reemployment. Okay, we're going to move on to item 9, which is our consent agenda. This evening, our consent agenda consists of items 10.1 to 24.13. Any member of the Board of Education may remove an item from the agenda to be voted on separately. Any items to be removed this evening? Seeing none. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on any items in the consent agenda? I see Board Member Regland and Dr. Pierce. Ragland.
Yes, I would just like to articulate a no vote on 24.12 for me, please. The rest I approve.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that in voting. Dr. Pierce.
So I wanted to discuss 19.1 specifically. Last meeting after the public comment by OPSI President Lois Carson, I asked several questions related to 19.1. Do we have any updates from administration on those questions?
Item 19.1 is personnel.
Yeah. What are those questions? I don't have that information.
So I requested the percentage of contract work by classified area, the percentage of classified work and how it aligns with our LEDE aspirational.
Thank you. The team is still working on that, and they will provide those answers to Misty, and Misty would give those to the board.
Okay. That includes the other two questions too.
If you have all of them, if you can send them back to me, you can get, but we captured those, and what we normally do, you get those questions, we send them to the team, and then the team works on those, and we respond back to the board and give you guys all copies of the responses.
Okay.
Any additional comments on 19.1? Any additional comments about any other item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, please call the roll.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
With the exception of 13.3 and 19.1, of which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Ragland? Yes, with the exception of 24.12, on which I vote no. Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move into item 25, which is public comment on non-agenda items. This evening, we have a participant participating virtually. So our person is James Becca. Topic, gender-affirming care in the Columbus City Schools. Action, I would like the board to commit to policies that support students in their gender expression and identity. We'll wait for Board Liaison Nichols to get the caller on the line.
President Dare, the speaker's on the line.
Thank you. You have 4 minutes to address the board. You may begin.
Members of the board, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you about an important topic. I come to you today as a concerned citizen, a member of the public that you serve, and as someone willing to fight for my community. Across our country, state and local governments are considering legislation and other ordinances that would deny queer young people the care and support they need. I encourage the board to commit to enacting and promoting policies that protect and enhance the lives of queer youth in Columbus schools. Like all young people, today's youth are at the forefront of our culture, and they are deeply engaged in the process of questioning and analyzing the norms, biases, and expectations that make up our society. The queer youth of today have done so much to show us all that sex and gender are not the same, and that they are both spectrums of identity. Young people in Columbus schools might express themselves as gender fluid, gender nonconforming, non-binary, transmasculine, transfeminine, or even just queer. These are all terms and concepts that can be difficult to understand and accept, since they can challenge deeply held beliefs about what it means to be a person in our society. However, it is the duty of a school to provide youth a safe place to learn about the world and about themselves. Schools give young people an opportunity to interact with people from all walks of life, people who can and should challenge their preconceptions and subconscious biases. A school is also a place where young people can experiment with identities and concepts about themselves, secure in the knowledge that they will be given a safe space to do so. Many queer youth grow up in families and local communities that do not support them or that actively harm them. Queer young people face enormous psychological and social pressure to conform to the expectations of their parents, their peers, and other adults in their lives. For most queer youth, school is the one place where they can live their true self, where they can express their inner identity, and where they can form lasting bonds with people who understand them in unique ways. Unfortunately, these benefits are under threat. The newly passed Ohio State budget bill included a provision allowing medical providers to refuse to perform services if doing so violates their religious, ethical, or moral beliefs. This item was introduced to the bill at the last minute with no opportunity for public debate and was blithely signed into law along with the rest of the bill. While most of the focus has been on what this means for hospitals and doctors' offices, this language has a much broader impact. Think of what this provision means for school nurses, school counselors, and other staff. If a queer young person goes to their school nurse and asks for help with an issue, that nurse could refuse service based on this language. This can be a traumatizing experience for a youth who could face ostracization both at home and at school. This could even result in the denial of potentially life-saving care and support. This is not how a diverse and democratic society works. Proponents of this provision have stated that situations like these won't happen because another service provider will be found. In a hospital, that's an easy argument to make. If one nurse refuses to serve a person, another can step in. However, staffing in schools for support positions can be challenging even at the best of times. Sometimes a nurse or counselor will be responsible for multiple buildings, rotating through each in turn, and there may not be anyone else to provide the service in question. What does that mean for the queer youth in need? I do not want to belabor this point. This is a school board meeting and not a legislative session. But what I want to do today is be a voice in support of the queer youth in Columbus schools. I want to be a citizen coming before you to say, yes, I want queer youth to be able to participate in activities and use facilities that affirm their identities. I want young people to learn about queer history and the impact that queer people have had, continue to have in our society. I want young people to learn about their bodies in a way that gives them tools and options, not shame and despair. Members of the board, thank you for your time today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for your public comment. We appreciate those comments very much and you addressing the board. Thank you. We are going to now move into executive session. Vice President Reyes.
I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We will now recess into executive session. We will return to this room to adjourn the meeting, but it will not be televised. We will just make the adjournment from our public meeting here. That is the last thing on the agenda, so those people at home, you are actually not missing a single thing. All right, thank you, board members. We'll see you in the room just across the hall.
Hey.